First Contact Deception. Grand Admiral Vextoric Kresh stood on the command bridge of the Indomitable Fist, the flagship of the Valkyrie Federation's 7th Expansion Fleet. His four eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the holographic display of the unremarkable blue-green planet that hung before him. Earth. Just another primitive world to add to the Federation's growing collection. Status report, Kresh demanded, his voice carrying the distinctive metallic resonance of the Valkyrie elite caste. Sub-Commander Zilnar approached with a data slate. All 30 vessels are in formation, Grand Admiral. The intimidation array is primed and calibrated for maximum visual impact. The humans' primitive detection systems should be registering our presence in approximately 3 minutes. Kresh's mouth ridges curled upward in what passed for a smile among his species. Excellent. And our intelligence on their defensive capabilities. Laughably inadequate, sir, Zilnar replied with a dismissive gesture of her secondary limbs. Their most advanced vessels barely leave their atmosphere. Most of their military technology relies on chemical propellants and basic fission reactions. They have no meaningful orbital defenses. Typical, Kresh muttered. Another species that wasted their time fighting among themselves instead of preparing for the greater galaxy. He straightened his ceremonial armor, the chitinous plates gleaming under the bridge lights. Prepare the first contact broadcast. Use Intimidation Protocol 7. It works well on mammalian species. As ordered, Grand Admiral. Kresh moved to his command throne, settling his large frame into the form-fitting seat. This was his 12th first contact mission for the Federation, and all had followed the same predictable pattern. Arrive with overwhelming force, demonstrate the futility of resistance, accept their surrender, and integrate their resources into the Federation's ever-growing economy. The Valkyrie called it guided assimilation, though most other species had less flattering terms for it. The holographic display shifted, showing the 30 warships of the 7th Expansion Fleet arranged in the traditional dominance formation, a three-dimensional array designed to showcase the fleet's firepower from any angle. The Indomitable Fist held the center position, its 15-kilometer length dwarfing the other vessels. We've entered the outer reaches of their solar system, the navigation officer announced, passing what they call Pluto now. Any reaction from the humans? Kresh inquired. The communications officer checked her console. None yet, sir. Their primitive detection systems likely haven't noticed us. Activate the warp-wake illuminators, Kresh ordered. Let's make sure they see us coming. Brilliant azure energy began to trail behind each ship in the fleet, creating visible streaks that even the most basic telescopes would detect. It was an unnecessary expenditure of energy, but Kresh had found that a dramatic entrance set the proper tone for negotiations. Send a tight beam transmission to their primary military installations and governmental centers, Kresh commanded. Standard first contact package, with emphasis on our fleet's capabilities. For the next several hours, the Valkyrie fleet proceeded inward through the solar system, broadcasting images of their military might, planetary conquests, and the benefits of joining the Federation, along with footage of what happened to those who refused. It was a well-rehearsed performance, designed to crush resistance before it began. We're approaching the asteroid belt, the navigation officer reported. ETA to Earth orbit is 6 hours. Kresh nodded. Perfect. That gives them enough time to panic and realize the futility of resistance. He turned to his executive officer. Prepare the diplomatic team. The usual arrangement, 4 soldiers for every diplomat. Make sure the weapons are prominently displayed. Grand Admiral. The sensor officer called suddenly, her voice tinged with confusion. I'm detecting anomalous readings from Earth's moon. Kresh frowned. Define anomalous. Energy signatures, sir. Powerful ones. They weren't there during our initial scan. Probably just their primitive satellites activating, Zilnar suggested. Their technology uses inefficient power systems that are easy to detect. The sensor officer shook her head. No, Sub-Commander. These readings are substantial, and they're growing in intensity. A sudden chill ran through Kresh's exoskeleton. "Show me." The holographic display shifted to focus on Earth's moon. At first, nothing seemed amiss, just the cratered, airless satellite they expected. Then, as they watched, sections of the lunar surface began to move. "What in the void?" Zil-Nar whispered. Massive portions of the lunar landscape were sliding apart, revealing enormous hangar bays beneath. From these openings, ships began to emerge, not the primitive chemical rockets their intelligence had reported, but sleek, advanced vessels that radiated power. Immediate tactical analysis. Kresh barked, rising from his command throne. The tactical officer worked frantically at her station. "Sir, I'm counting. Over 100 vessels. Various classes, but at least 20 appear to be capital ships. Their energy signatures exceed our own by a factor of. That can't be right." "What?" Kresh demanded. "By a factor of 3, sir. And they're deploying in a counter-formation that will surround our fleet completely." "Impossible." Kresh stared at the display in disbelief as more and more human ships poured from the lunar bases, taking up positions in a perfect three-dimensional sphere around the Valkyrie fleet. Their design aesthetic was entirely different, angular and predatory, where Valkyrie ships were smooth and organic. But even Kresh could recognize advanced technology when he saw it. "Grand Admiral," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's being broadcast directly to the bridge. They've bypassed all our encryption." Kresh felt the first stirrings of genuine fear. "Put it through." The holographic display shifted again, now showing the human female with olive skin and short dark hair. She wore what appeared to be a military uniform in midnight blue with silver accents, her posture straight and confident. "Valkyrie vessels," she began, her voice calm and measured. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Defense Force flagship Thermopylae. Your presence in our solar system has been monitored since you crossed the Kuiper Belt. Your transmissions have been received, analyzed, and found wanting." Kresh struggled to maintain his composure. "This is Grand Admiral Vextori Kresh of the Valkyrie Federation. Our information indicated." "Your information," Captain Reyes interrupted, "was exactly what we wanted you to have." A new image appeared beside her. Surveillance footage showing Valkyrie intelligence agents on Earth, secretly recording human technology and military capabilities. "Did you really believe," Reyes continued, "that we wouldn't detect your scouts? That we wouldn't track every move they made? That we wouldn't feed them exactly the information we wanted the Valkyrie Federation to have?" Kresh's jaw clenched. "This is some kind of deception. Your species couldn't possibly." "Grand Admiral," the tactical officer interrupted, panic evident in her voice. "They've locked weapons on every ship in our fleet simultaneously. Their targeting systems are. I've never seen anything like this precision." On the display, Captain Reyes smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Now then, Grand Admiral Kresh, I believe it's customary in these situations to demonstrate one's capabilities. Please observe. A single human vessel, smaller than the others but still formidable, broke formation and approached a small moon orbiting a gas giant they had passed earlier. A beam of concentrated energy lanced out from the ship, striking the celestial body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the moon simply disintegrated, breaking apart into countless fragments. That, Captain Reyes explained, was approximately 1/20th of that vessel's maximum output. And as you can see, we have many ships." Her expression hardened. "Now, Grand Admiral, I believe we should discuss the terms of your surrender." The bridge of the indomitable fist fell silent. In 12 first contact missions, Kresh had never once considered the possibility that he might be on the receiving end of an intimidation protocol. "Captain Reyes," he said finally, forcing strength into his voice, "there seems to have been a significant misunderstanding. The Valkyrie Federation comes in peace." "Save it," Reyes cut him off. "We've studied your previous peaceful integrations of the Caridian Alliance and the Mox hegemony. We know exactly what peace means to the Valkyrie. She leaned forward slightly. You have 1 hour to power down your weapon systems and prepare a diplomatic delegation. You will be escorted, under heavy guard, to our lunar headquarters for discussions about your immediate departure from our solar system. Failure to comply will result in a demonstration of our fleet's capabilities using your ships as the example. The choice is yours, Grand Admiral. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Zilnar was the first to speak. Grand Admiral, what do we do? Kresh stared at the massive human fleet surrounding his own. The humans had played their deception perfectly, allowing Valkyrie intelligence to see exactly what they wanted them to see. Now the 7th Expansion Fleet, the pride of the Federation, was trapped and outgunned. Power down weapons, he ordered quietly. Prepare the diplomatic shuttle, and send an emergency communication to the High Command. Tell them. He paused, still struggling to process what had happened. Tell them we've encountered something unprecedented. As the bridge crew scrambled to obey his orders, Kresh continued to stare at the human vessels. For the first time in his distinguished career, he felt something he had never experienced before, the humiliation of complete and utter tactical inferiority. The humans hadn't just outmaneuvered them. They had been playing a different game entirely. The tables turn. Grand Admiral Kresh had never imagined he would enter negotiations as the weaker party. As the diplomatic shuttle approached the massive lunar base, he struggled to maintain his composure. The shuttle was flanked by 4 human interceptors, sleek vessels that moved with impossible precision. Through the viewport, he could see the true scale of the human installation. Not merely a base, but an entire city built beneath the lunar surface, with only small portions visible from space. Preliminary scans indicate their lunar facility extends at least 20 kilometers below the surface. Science Officer Trelvac murmured, her voice low enough that only Kresh could hear. The energy output suggests fusion reactors far more advanced than our own. And Admiral, there are signs of artificial gravity throughout the structure. Kresh suppressed a hiss of surprise. The Valkyrie had only managed to create artificial gravity in limited areas, and the technology consumed enormous power. To implement it across an entire facility of this size. Record everything, he ordered. The High Command must know what we're dealing with. The shuttle was guided into an enormous hangar bay where dozens of human vessels were docked in tiered arrays. As they settled onto the landing pad, Kresh noted the hangar alone could accommodate the entire Valkyrie fleet. A deliberate choice, no doubt. Another display of human capabilities. Remember, he instructed his delegation as they prepared to disembark. We represent the Federation. Maintain dignity at all times. When the shuttle door opened, they were greeted by a contingent of human soldiers in form-fitting armor that seemed to shift colors subtly with each movement. Captain Rice stood at their center, somehow more imposing in person. Grand Admiral Kresh, she said, extending a hand in what their cultural briefings had identified as a greeting gesture. Welcome to Armstrong Base. Kresh awkwardly extended his primary right limb. Captain Rice. Her grip was firm, her expression unreadable. We've prepared suitable accommodations for your delegation. If you'll follow me, the diplomatic team is waiting. What followed was a journey through corridors of gleaming metal and transparent materials that displayed the lunar landscape and Earth hanging in the void. Human personnel moved purposefully throughout the facility, barely glancing at the alien delegation. Your base is... Kresh searched for a word that wouldn't sound like flattery. Substantial. Armstrong. This is just one of 7 major lunar installations, Rides replied casually. Our primary military facilities are actually on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. Armstrong serves mainly as a diplomatic and scientific hub. Each casual revelation was like a physical blow to Kresh. Not just one base, but 7 on the moon alone, and more throughout the system. The Valkyrie intelligence failure was catastrophic. They were led into a circular chamber with a large holographic display at its center. Around a crescent-shaped table sat 5 humans in various uniforms and formal attire. Standing at the head of the table was an older human male with silver hair and piercing blue eyes. "Grand Admiral Kresh," Captain Rice announced. "May I present Admiral William Chen, Supreme Commander of the Earth Defense Force." Admiral Chen nodded politely. "Welcome to Sol System, Grand Admiral. Please, be seated." As the Valkyrie delegation took their places, Kresh noted the careful balance of the room. The humans had positioned themselves to appear neither threatening nor submissive. It was expertly done. "I presume," Chen began, "you have questions." Kresh fought to maintain his composure. "Several thousand, Admiral. Beginning with how your species managed to conceal its true technological capabilities from our intelligence operatives." A slight smile crossed Chen's face. A combination of compartmentalization, misdirection, and understanding the psychology of conquering species like the Valkyrie. He activated the holographic display, showing Earth from orbit. "You see, Grand Admiral, we detected your first scouts nearly 30 years ago." The display shifted to show surveillance footage of Valkyrie observation vessels at the edge of the solar system. "Rather than destroy them, we decided to study them, and by extension, you. We allowed your operatives limited access to Earth, showing them exactly what we wanted them to see." "But why?" Kresh asked. "Why maintain the facade of being a primitive species?" A new human joined the conversation, a woman with dark skin and silver-streaked black hair. "I am Dr. Amara Okafor, Earth's chief cynoanthropologist." "That question has a complex answer, Grand Admiral. Simply put, humanity has learned through bitter experience that appearing weak when you are strong is advantageous. Throughout our history," she continued, "civilizations that openly displayed their technological and military capabilities often became targets. Those that concealed their strength survived longer." Admiral Chen nodded. "When we began exploring beyond our solar system 60 years ago, we encountered the wreckage of civilizations destroyed by expanding empires like yours. We learned from their mistakes." Kresh's secondary heart began beating faster. "You've been beyond your system for 60 years. But our intelligence was precisely what we wanted it to be," Chen finished. "While your scouts observe our primitive chemical rockets and early fusion experiments on Earth, our actual fleet was operating far from Sol, establishing colonies and gathering intelligence on the major galactic powers." The holographic display shifted again, now showing a map of the galaxy with hundreds of points of light spreading outward from Sol, human settlements and outposts that the Valkyrie had no knowledge of. "Impossible," whispered Sub-Commander Zilinar. "Such expansion would have been detected." Dr. Okafor smiled. "Not if we avoided standard FTL methods. Your Valkyrie ships create detectable ripples in space-time when they travel. Ours don't." The implications staggered Kresh. A species with FTL technology that didn't create the usual subspace distortions would be nearly undetectable until they chose to reveal themselves. "So you've been watching us," Kresh said slowly, "studying our expansion patterns. And your treatment of subjugated worlds," added another human, this one wearing what appeared to be civilian attire. "I'm Representative Kaido Tanaka, from Earth's Diplomatic Corps. We've documented the Valkyrie Federation's methods thoroughly. The initial intimidation display, the resource extraction quotas, the cultural suppression programs." Kresh's jaw clenched. Put in such blunt terms, the Federation's methods sounded less like guided assimilation and more like simple conquest. "The Federation brings order and protection," he began. "At the cost of freedom and autonomy," Tanaka interrupted. "We interviewed refugees from 12 different species under Valkyrie control. Their testimonies paint a consistent picture." Admiral Chen leaned forward. "Grand Admiral, let's be direct. The Valkyrie Federation will not be expanding into Sol System or any human-controlled territory. In fact, your borders will be contracting in the near future." "Is that a threat?" Kresh demanded, his pride finally overcoming his shock. "It's an inevitable outcome," Chen replied calmly. We've already made contact with resistance movements on 6 Valkyrie-controlled worlds. They're quite eager for outside assistance. The holographic display changed again, showing footage of clandestine meetings between humans and various alien species, all conducting what appeared to be guerrilla operations against Valkyrie outposts. "This is an act of war," Kresh said, rising from his seat. "No," Chen corrected. "It's liberation. There's a difference." He gestured to the display. "And we're not alone in this endeavor." The galactic map reappeared, but now with new markers indicating the territories of species Kresh had never encountered, civilizations apparently as advanced as humanity, all operating beyond the awareness of the major galactic powers. "The Hidden Coalition," Dr. Okafor explained. 17 spacefaring species who chose concealment over confrontation. Until now. Representative Tanaka stepped forward. "Which brings us to why you're here, Grand Admiral. We're offering the Valkyrie Federation a choice." "What kind of choice?" Kresh asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Reform or obsolescence," Tanaka stated simply. "The Federation in its current form, an expansionist empire built on intimidation and resource extraction, cannot continue. The Hidden Coalition won't allow it." "And if we refuse these terms?" Kresh challenged. Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral. "Then a demonstration will be necessary, not unlike the intimidation displays the Valkyrie are so fond of. Except ours would involve the simultaneous liberation of 6 of your core worlds." Kresh felt as though the artificial gravity had increased tenfold. "You couldn't possibly coordinate such an operation without detection." "We already have," Chen replied. "The operation is prepared. It awaits only my command." The room fell silent as Kresh contemplated the situation. His entire understanding of the galaxy's power structure had been upended in a matter of hours. The Valkyrie Federation, the dominant force in this sector for over 3 centuries, was suddenly facing an existential threat from a species they had dismissed as primitive. "There must be Valkyrie dissidents within the Federation," Kresh said finally. "Those who oppose our current methods." Tanaka nodded. "The progressive faction, led by Arbiter Nexalos. We've been in contact." Of course they had. Kresh shouldn't have been surprised, yet each new revelation sent another shock through his system. Nexalos was a member of the High Command, with access to the Federation's most sensitive information. The Federation's leadership structure would never accept such dramatic reforms, Kresh said. "They will when faced with the alternative," Chen replied. "And when presented with the evidence we've accumulated about the inefficiency of your current model. Subjugated species produce at roughly 40% of their potential. Voluntary allies achieve nearly 90% efficiency." Economic arguments. They were appealing to the Valkyrie obsession with productivity and resource optimization. Clever. "And what would be my role in this transition?" Kresh asked carefully. Admiral Chen and Representative Tanaka exchanged glances. "That depends on you, Grand Admiral," Tanaka answered. "You came to our system expecting to add another conquest to your record. Instead, you've discovered a new paradigm. You can either adapt to it and help lead the Federation into a new era, or resist and be swept aside by the inevitable changes." Kresh considered his options. The evidence of human technological superiority was overwhelming. If they were indeed part of a larger coalition of advanced species, the Federation stood no chance in direct conflict. Yet to return home and advocate for fundamental reforms would be politically dangerous, possibly suicidal. "I would need guarantees," he said slowly. "Assurances that this isn't simply an elaborate ruse to weaken the Federation before a more conventional conquest." "Of course," Chen agreed. "We anticipated that concern." He gestured to Captain Reyes, who approached with a data device. "This contains irrefutable evidence of everything we've discussed. The Hidden Coalition's capabilities, the testimonies from Federation worlds, and the economic projections for a reformed Federation. It also includes direct communication protocols," Reyes added, "allowing you to contact Arbiter Nexalos securely." Kresh accepted the device. The High Command will require more than data. They'll want a demonstration of good faith. Which is why, Tanaka said, we're prepared to assist with the Federation's ongoing resource crisis on Delarius Prime. Our terraforming technology can restore the planet's ecosystem within 3 years, rather than the 50-year scientists projected. It was the perfect offer. Delarius Prime's ecological collapse had stretched the Federation's resources to the breaking point. Such assistance would not only prove humanity's technological capabilities, but would also give Kresh political capital within the High Command. You've thought of everything, Kresh observed. We've had 30 years to prepare for this meeting. Dr. Okafor replied with a slight smile. Considerably more time than your intelligence gave you. For the first time since entering the lunar base, Kresh felt a glimmer of hope. Not for conquest. That dream had evaporated the moment he saw the human fleet emerge from the moon. But for something more interesting. Evolution. The Federation had grown complacent in its dominance, relying on intimidation rather than innovation. Perhaps this humbling encounter was exactly what they needed. I will bring your proposal to the High Command, he said finally. Not as an ultimatum, but as an opportunity. The Valkyrie have always prided ourselves on adaptation. It seems we must adapt once more. Admiral Chen nodded. A wise perspective, Grand Admiral. Captain Rise will escort you back to your vessel when you're ready. As the meeting concluded and Kresh prepared to return to the indomitable fist, he found Captain Rise waiting in the corridor. A question, Captain, he said. If your species possesses such advanced technology, why maintain the charade at all? Why not simply announce your presence to the galaxy from a position of strength? Rise considered him for a moment. Have you ever heard the human expression, speak softly and carry a big stick? Kresh's translation implant struggled with the idiom. I'm not familiar with it. It means true power doesn't need to constantly announce itself, she explained. Those who are truly strong can afford to appear gentle until challenged. As his shuttle departed the lunar base, Kresh watched the Earth grow larger in the viewport. From space, it still appeared to be the unremarkable blue-green world he had dismissed hours earlier. Yet beneath that ordinary exterior lay a civilization that had completely outmaneuvered the Valkyrie Federation. Not through superior firepower, though they certainly possessed that, but through patience, deception, and understanding their adversary. The greatest weapons in humanity's arsenal, Kresh realized, weren't their advanced ships or lunar bases. It was their capacity for strategic thinking, and their ability to hide in plain sight. As the indomitable fist prepared to depart the Sol system, not as conquerors but as humbled messengers, Kresh found himself curious about the future for the first time in decades. The galaxy was far more complex and interesting than he had believed, and humanity was just the beginning.